Hey critical thinkers and lifelong learners, today we're talking about a topic that I pushed several of my queued ideas out of the way to do right now. I was hoping to keep it light for a bit on this channel as we started out, but recent events and the whole entire political climate has pushed this to the top. You have a human right to art. This is not hyperbolic, not an overstatement. You literally, as a person, have a human right to art. This is defined under the United Nations, and here is the entire article. Article 27(1). Everyone has the right to freely participate in the cultural life of the community, to enjoy the arts, and share in scientific advancement and its benefits. 2. Everyone has the right to the protection of the moral and material interests resulting from any scientific, literary, or artistic production of which he is the author. Breaking this down, that means that every human being has the right to both see art, any art, and make art, and have that art protected. Now, I understand that not every country follows the UN, and that this declaration is often ignored, laws are made in direct contrast to it, and in so many other ways it is undermined. But the legalese is not the point of this video, and I'm sure we can have a lovely argument in the comments about the UN and specific countries' laws. What this is about is directly informing each and every one of you that you have a human right to make and see art. It is inalienable and it is innate to the human experience. Defining art is difficult, but according to the Oxford English Dictionary, art is defined as the expression or application of human creative skill and imagination, producing works to be appreciated primarily for their beauty or emotional power. And what is defined as the arts? Various branches of creative activity such as painting, music, literature, and dance. So from these two definitions, we are left with the understanding that art is any human-made creative output that involves imagination, the communication of beauty and emotion, and can be any medium, including but not limited to putting a medium on paper, dancing, playing music, taking a picture, or creating an object. What does this mean exactly for us right now? To start, let's go back to the very beginning of the human timeline to some of the first pieces of art we have. The Venus of Willendorf is incredibly well known as being early art. It's from 25,000 BCE or 27,000 years ago. That is roughly 20,000 years before the invention of writing. The last early human species besides us, the Neanderthal, had only died out 15,000 years before this, meaning that the Venus of Willendorf was carved closer to there being another species of proto-humans on Earth than the invention of writing. And there are even earlier works, such as the Blombos Cave in South Africa, that has abstract ochre markings on the cave walls that are 73,000 years old. There is evidence of a paint-making site where the ochre pigment was made, as well as shell beads. And we have so many more, like the Lascaux Caves in France, painted in 17,000 BCE. These are not scribbles, but complex drawings and stories of bulls and horses, even some extinct species. At the same time, paintings of humanoid figures were being made in Australia. This is 15,000 years before writing. This, though, is my favorite. These are the hand stencils in Argentina in the Cueva de las Manos from 9,500 BCE. Please just humor me and take a moment to look at these. These are the outlines of hands of people who lived 11,000 years ago, who put their hands on a wall, blew pigment over them, and left an impression. We don't know why, whether it was because they wanted to be remembered, or because it was something to do or part of a ritual, but these are the hands of our ancestors. Record keeping in the form of writing would not be invented in this area of the world for 9,000 more years, but here they have recorded their presence. None of these people were trained artists in the modern sense. As part of the academic and professional art world, art, both the looking at and the creating, is often gatekept. We feel we must make a profound statement about the nature of art, or we aren't good at looking at it. We feel that what we need to make is something technically good or new or worth making. Do you think any of the people drawing cows or pressing their hands to the walls of caves were worried about if they had something intelligent to say about it? Absolutely not. They were recording a cool cow. Go outside and draw a bird. It's your goddamn human right. So from the earliest times we've been making art, since we were just barely human. It seems to be an impulse, something inside of us that makes us want to create. This covers part 1 of Article 27, that everyone has the right to participate in cultural life and enjoy the arts. This is partially why it is a human right, but there's other pieces too. Art is also a tool of communication, which is why I was harping on how far before writing each piece was in the last section. In prehistoric art, prehistoric, by the way, just means pre-recorded history or pre-writing in the area that we're looking at. What was often communicated was abstract patterns or our presence, or the presence of animals we saw. But slowly, art began to take on more complex ideas. We see this with the standard of Ur from 2500 BCE. On it is a depiction of war and peace, with the kingdom of Ur defeating the Sumerians. The bottom panel on the war side shows goods being carried to a royal banquet. This is one of the earliest pieces of propaganda in art. The Oxford Dictionary defines propaganda as an organization, scheme, or movement for the propagation of a particular doctrine, practice, etc., which is what this is. The particular doctrine is the might of the kingdom of Ur, and how the Sumerians are weaker than them. I'm sure the Sumerians would have objected to this, but according to Article 27, Part 2, everyone has the right to the protection of the moral and material interests resulting from any artistic production of which they are the author. Yes, this is a dumb comparison. The Kingdom of Ur did not care what the hell the UN was going to say about art 4,500 years after they made this victory celebration piece, but the point stands. You have the right to the protection of the moral interest from any piece of art you make, and that means protection from censorship. Censorship itself is a hot topic in the art world and always has been. For instance, Pompeii and Herculaneum, which I had the amazing fortune to visit last summer with my school, are full of erotic imagery. I was with some great friends who I met on the trip, one of whom had become obsessed with photographing dicks in all the artworks we saw. Luckily, those dicks were still there to photograph because in 1819, when the King of Italy, King Francis I of Naples, visited the newly discovered finds, he was so horrified and embarrassed by the imagery, he had a secret museum made to house the morally dubious stuff. Locked metal cabinets were made and installed in Pompeii to cover the erotic frescoes, and for a time the secret museum was bricked up in the National Museum of Naples. Art has been destroyed by the cultures who found it for most of human history. Whether it was for moral or religious or wartime reasons, we have lost many pieces to extreme censorship. A weird piece of censorship that my very first art history teacher told me about is all about the Roman and Greek statues in the Vatican. It was Pope Paul IV in 1555 who removed all the penises, replacing them with fig leaves. And no, not just covering them up, but sometimes castrating the statues. This means that there is a pile of marble dicks somewhere in the Vatican. Yeah, they might have tossed them, but in my heart of hearts, there is a dick room. As we talked about in my modern art video, please go watch it, it was so much work. No one censors more art than political regimes. Both the political party I can't name that was in charge of Germany from the 30s to the mid-40s, and the Soviets banned modern art. But art persisted. I have here with me a folio of music by Gideon Klein, a Czech Jewish man who used to live in the apartment building I lived in Prague. Let me give you a little show. He was a fantastic musician who was studying to become a composer when German occupation shut down all Czech universities. He was deported to Terezin, which is also known as Theresienstadt. If you've heard either one, it's the same place, which was not an extermination camp, but a concentration camp. He was only 22. During his 4 years of imprisonment there, he organized public life at the camp, training others in vocal arrangements and composing pieces for those imprisoned to play. In 1945, he was moved to Auschwitz and killed. He was 26, just a few months younger than me. This that I'm holding is the first publication of his music. It was thought destroyed, but was found in 1990, and I purchased this at Terezin, where all proceeds go to keeping the legacy of people who died there alive. But we are looking at today. Across the world, art is being censored and silenced. We all know this, from book bans in some U.S. states to the extreme religious laws in Sudan and Nigeria, to the all-around censorship in North Korea. For more information, I have linked the UN website as well as a great resource called Free Muse, which puts out a yearly report on the state of censorship of art across the globe. But what can you do? Go to your goddamn art museums. I'm so serious. You know how librarians are always talking about how if you don't want libraries to disappear, you need to show that people are using them? Exact same principle. The vast majority of museums of all types are nonprofit, which means showing that people are going is how they get funding. There are two more important things you can do, though. The first is to make art. Just make it. It is your human right. It is what your brain wants to do. Go to Michael's, go online, buy a paint by numbers kit, and just do it. When I'm having art block, I do this. I've been studying painting for years, and I do paint by numbers. Or grab a pencil and doodle. Copy some patterns from prehistory. Draw a sick ox, I don't know. Connect with your ancestors. Listen to music or a podcast, and just let yourself connect and relax. Or go for it and really paint. I still have my first real painting that I did at 14. It's never too late to start. Make a mess. Surprise yourself. Also, it's fantastic for relaxation and mental health, which all of us could use a little of that right now. The other thing you can do is less fun. I want you to keep your eyes open. Anywhere you are in the world, any country, wherever you are. The Cambodian genocide under Pol Pot started with the intellectuals, anyone wearing glasses. The Germans targeted and deported professors and artists early on. Removal of art from national institutions, then from private ones under duress, is often an early start of a totalitarian regime. Listen for your coworkers, your neighbors, your family saying that they shouldn't air that on TV, or can you believe that new exhibition? It's immoral. Be aware. I'll leave you with this. Art is your right as a human. Never let any person, any government, any religion, any institution take it away. I'll see you.